Is it still a good idea to wholesale real estate, or is it too late? Someone recently commented that they feel like I don't really recommend wholesaling real estate anymore, and I think it's time that I address it. I got my start on this channel by house hacking and wholesaling and eventually building up the rental portfolio that I have now. There's more than a dozen units, multiple duplexes, and houses with garage apartments in the back. All of those units together are worth more than $1 million, and the cash flow that those properties generates seriously contributes to my monthly living expenses. So wholesaling real estate has been an absolute blessing for me. But is it too late? I started wholesaling during the pandemic and at a time before the sweeping wholesaling bans that have started popping up in different states. And so in this video, I want to break down what's changed and how I would approach wholesaling real estate if I had to start over again. And a quick note, because you guys have been asking, the live 14-day beginners bootcamp is back. That's right. And so the 14-day beginners bootcamp now comes with live Zoom calls. We do our kickoff call on a Wednesday, which is day one. And then each of the 14 days has pre-recorded trainings, quizzes, action items for you to take on. We'll do another Zoom call on day 8 where we'll analyze properties together and answer questions. And then you'll continue to go through the boot camp and finishing up on day 14 and then having our final Zoom call where you'll share the results of your final exam and be ready to get out and have completed the entire program. So in a video about whether or not wholesaling is a good idea, why am I reopening my mentorship program? The number one reason is because I think many of us have approached wholesaling and real estate investing in general in a way that just doesn't work long term. And if I can help you get a better start and answer 3 questions at the very beginning of the journey, I think you'll end up in a better place. And those 3 questions are, first, is real estate investing right for you? It's not right for everyone. And before you go out and you drop $10,000 on direct mail or $15,000 on a mentorship program, why don't you spend a little bit of time every single day for 2 weeks actually seeing what it's going to take and deciding if that is a path down which you want to walk? That's the first question that the bootcamp is going to answer for you. The second is that you have to figure out what strategy and what market you want to pursue. There's a lot of different types of real estate investing that I've covered on this channel and that I've tried myself, from house hacking, wholesaling, burr investing, trying out subject to, house flipping, right? There's a lot of different things that you could do in a lot of different markets, and figuring out early on which one works best for you. That's the second question that the bootcamp will answer. And then third, and maybe most important, is that the goal is you come out of the 14 days ready to take confident and ethical action. We'll talk about the wholesaling bans and why I feel like wholesalers are looked down on in the real estate investing industry. And it's because a lot of people don't prioritize being confident in what they're doing, actually knowing what they're doing, and doing it in an ethical way. And so other people have been forced to step in and apply laws and boundaries and guidelines because wholesalers haven't necessarily been doing it ourselves. And so this is me trying to contribute to the wholesaling world and make sure that we're actually doing things in the right way before you get out there and start trying to wholesale and buy houses that people's livelihoods are depending on. So if you're interested, I've only got 2 live boot camps open right now. And once spots fill up, they will be full. I don't know how many more that I'm going to be doing. So you can hit the link in the top comment and check it out. See if you want to sign up. What is wholesaling? If you're watching this video, you probably have a pretty good idea, but I want to talk about a small piece of the definition that's going to be really, really important, especially when you think about why wholesaling is getting banned in different places around the country. So typically when there's a real estate transaction, you have a contract, and that contract lists who the seller is going to be, they list who the buyer is going to be, and they list what the price is. Let's say for this property, it's going to sell for $100,000, right? The seller is agreeing to sell it to the buyer for $100K. But when you are wholesaling, you can do something called assigning a contract. What that means is that you as the buyer are going to assign your contract to another person. And this is oftentimes called the end buyer or the cash buyer, okay? You are not actually going to buy the property. You are actually just going to make another contract that sells your contract. Okay, so now there's a mini contract over here between you and the end buyer. And let's say that you want to make $10,000 on this deal. So the end buyer is actually buying both contracts from you. They are buying the assignment contract, which costs $10,000, and they are buying what's called the purchase and sale contract, which costs $100,000. So the end buyer is paying $110,000, $10,000 of which goes to you for assigning them this contract, and $100,000 of which goes to the seller for the original contract. And this ability to assign a contract is because you have something called equitable interest. And equitable interest just means you have the right to that first contract. right? You have the right to that first contract and you can sell the rights to that first contract. You can sell your equitable interest. And how most people say this in day-to-day life is that wholesaling is finding a seller who wants to sell a property, finding a buyer who wants to buy the property, and connecting the two. And the problem is that this gets really close to the definition of being a real estate agent. And this is why many of the wholesaling bans have been pushed by realtors. And whether you want to think that it is in good faith, that they are trying to make sure that the people who are out here doing real estate deals know what they're doing, have some education, have a license that's on the line, have some oversight. Or you might think that realtors are feeling threatened by wholesalers because wholesalers are maybe taking some deals that real estate agents could be getting for themselves. So I think it's probably a Venn diagram of both. But this is why many wholesaling bans, such as those in Oklahoma, Illinois, Philadelphia, require you to be limited or completely banned from selling your equitable interest unless you have a real estate or a wholesaling license. So it's not that wholesaling or assigning contracts is becoming illegal, it's becoming prohibited without a license. So what can you do? First, you can get a license. If I had to do it again and I was wholesaling today, I would probably just get licensed, whether that be a wholesaling license specifically, depending on my state, or a real estate license, and then make sure that I was working in a real estate office that would allow me to wholesale. Or what some people are doing who don't actually want to be a real estate agent is they are double closing. And what double closing is, if we come back here, remember we've got a seller, we've got you as the buyer, and then we also have your end buyer. And this deal is for 100K and this deal is for 10K. Most times in a single closing, these two contracts, the assignment contract and the purchase and sale contract, the end buyer just buys them both at the same time, right? The title company just pretty much stacks them on top of each other. They give you your 10K, they give the seller their 100K. Well, in double closing, what actually happens is that you as the buyer need to go ahead and buy this first contract. You need to close the sale with the original seller first and pay them their $100,000. And then sometimes on the same day, you're gonna turn around and resell the property. Now, instead of a assignment contract that is for 10K, you are just selling the property because you're now the owner, the seller's out of it, they got their 100K. You are now just selling the property that you own. There's no more assignment contract. You are now the seller and you're gonna sell this property for 110K, right? You already spent the 100K, so you're still gonna end up making 10K. And I'm ignoring the fact that there are fees and taxes and things of that nature to keep the numbers simple. But the idea is just that when double closing, you close on the first property yourself, and then you resell the property to the actual end buyer. The problem with this is that you have to, in some way, have that 100K. There are people called transactional lenders who will fund your double close for a fee. So they'll give you that 100K. They might add something like 1, 2, 3% on top of it. And then you own the property and you can turn around and resell it. So it gets more complicated than that, but that is one way that people are getting around assigning their equitable interest. They're just double closing and then selling a property that they own. And then the third way that you could get around these things is you could go virtual. You could decide to wholesale in a state that doesn't have wholesaling bans. That's not to say that they might not get them, but it is something that people are doing, right? So this is probably the number one reason that I hesitate to 100% recommend wholesaling for everyone. So if you are going to wholesale, it's really important that you know the laws in your area and you make sure that you do it right, because you don't want to negatively impact yourself, but you also don't want to negatively impact a buyer or a seller that you might be dealing with. The next reason that I might sometimes hesitate to recommend wholesaling is because wholesaling is not investing. It's an exit strategy. And I make this difference because the world of real estate investing is way bigger than assigning a contract or just wholesaling. And when we go in thinking wholesaling is the same thing as real estate investing, then I think we don't take the time to actually learn about real estate investing and all the things that we need to know in order to find a good deal, figure out what to buy it for, figure out how much it's going to cost to renovate, how much it might sell or rent for on the back end, how to manage tenants, how to work with real estate agents if you're going to flip a house, right? Like all of these things fall under the real estate umbrella, separate from whether or not you just assign the contract. And so if you are interested in wholesaling, I would say broaden your horizons a little bit and do 3 things. The first is read. I have a link in every description that will take you to my recommended reading list for all the things that you need to learn to get into real estate investing. There's a link to get a free book on Audible, as well as a link to get a free book on Kindle. So you don't have any excuse, go get one. And the reason I say read is because long form content is the best way to get all of the information that you're gonna need. Piecing together YouTube videos, even mine, as helpful as I hope they are, will just be an assistant to the knowledge that you get from reading. The second thing is listen. Listen to content like this. Also listen to podcasts. When I first started, I just went back to episode 1 of the Bigger Pockets podcast, and I probably listened to like 200 before I started skipping episodes based on my interest. Just hearing the stories and the insights of people who are actually doing real estate investing, you're gonna soak up all of their information. And again, broaden your horizon past just wholesaling real estate and actually knowing what real estate investing is. And then finally is practice. Most of you know that I spent my whole life playing basketball. I play a ton of pickleball now. And whenever I don't play well in a tournament, my first thought is usually I need to practice more. Because when we just try to show up and get a deal or make an offer, but we haven't actually practiced running the numbers or having conversations with sellers and real estate agents, we're just not going to perform as well. You're going to get better as you get more reps. And so this is one of the reasons that I recommend you get a free trial of PropStream. Go in, look at properties, practice analyzing them, practice calling real estate agents and asking questions, because all of those different reps are going to help you when you actually do get out there and start making real offers. You can't skip the practice and show up in the game. What if you're like, Lili, I still want to wholesale. I want to do it the right way. I want to follow the laws in my area. And I realize that is just one strategy. It's the strategy that I'm going to start with. And then I want to continue to build and move past that. So what would I do? At this moment, you're kind of at this red dot and you have 2 paths that you can choose from. One path is you can build out a real, legitimate wholesaling business. One that is not just you as the only person, but one that sends out marketing materials, whether it's direct mail or you run ads or you have a cold calling team. You are setting up a legitimate business to get deals every month. That's called the acquisition side. And then to have a disposition side of how you sell those deals. That is a fork in the road that I decided not to go down. So I can't really help you with that. My goal with real estate investing and with wholesaling was different. It wasn't to follow this path of building a full-on wholesaling business. Instead, what I was wholesaling for, and this other path that you can take, is to get experience in deals without having to be the end buyer and having to actually do the investing yourself, and to gain capital, right? You get a lump sum payment of $10, $12, $15, $20,000 at a time. That is a significant amount of cash that you have on hand that you can then use to help yourself reach what I call level 1 of financial freedom. I have a whole video on the levels of financial freedom and how to reach them. I'll link it below. But level 1 is all about getting your self-directed income to exceed your burn rate. And self-directed income just means that it's not coming from an employer, right? It's not coming from your 9 to 5. It's coming from actions that you put out yourself, whether it be your side hustle or your own business. And your burn rate is how much money that you're spending every month. Once you have self-directed income that you're in control of, that pays for your living expenses, you are level 1 financial free. Like imagine if you only had to pay $5 every month to live, right? You lived in this magical world where that covered your rent, that covered your gas, that covered your food. $5 was all it took. Well, you could probably pretty easily reach financial freedom because all it would take would be making $5 per month. And then you'd have the freedom to do whatever else you wanted with your time. So that's level 1. But most people are not spending $5 a month. On average, most American families are spending about $6,000 per month. So when I started thinking about real estate investing as a way to help me get self-directed income that would be more than my monthly burn rate, here's how I did it, and you might follow a similar path. I knew that a huge chunk of my living expenses was going to go towards my rent and my mortgage. And so that's why I actually started out with house hacking. I'll link to a video below, but the idea was that I bought a duplex and I rented out one unit and I lived in the other. And so the rent that I got from my tenants helped me to pretty much cover the entirety of my mortgage, knocking down quite a bit of my monthly burn. Then from there, I went to wholesaling. And again, my goal was not to build a wholesaling business where I was going to wholesale 10, 20, 30 deals per month. My goal was to get experience and get investing capital. investing capital. Why? Because that investing capital helped me to invest in rentals and my business. As I bought rental properties, as I started to grow my business, which was around this YouTube channel and helping other business owners to grow their YouTube channels, that gave me self-directed income. I'm now working for myself, and it gave me asset ownership. So those rental properties, they have value if I decide to sell them. My business makes money every month, helping with my burn rate. So now I have that self-directed income. I'm not working for someone else, and it's more than what I spend each month. That's level 1 financial freedom, which the entire point of is to give you time and location freedom. I can go anywhere in the world and still generate my self-directed income because most of my work is just done on my laptop. If I need someone to go help with a rental, I have my family members here that help me, but I can also just call a handyman or something like that. So level 1 financial freedom is that self-directed income. And this is the exact path of how I used real estate investing and wholesaling at a certain point to do it. House hack to get my living expenses down. Wholesale to build up capital, invest that capital in rentals and my own business in order to make money on my own that is more than what I spend each month. That's how I would approach wholesaling if I had to do it again. Not as a get rich quick scheme, but one piece in the puzzle on my journey to level 1 financial freedom. If you want to work with me directly in the 14-day beginners bootcamp to figure out what pieces of the puzzle are going to fit for you, there's a link in the description to sign up. Spots are limited, so it depends when you're watching this video, but go check it out. And if you want to know how to move through level 2 and even level 3 of financial freedom, you can check out this video right here.